news, Philippine government to form a task force on logistics that will benefit healthcare workers, especially those being evicted from their homes.
At yun po ay pinag-usapan na rin po namin kahapon sa pamumuno po ni Secretary Vince Dizon na magkaroon po ng tinatawag na yung ating task group on logistics ay sila pong titingin sa pangangailangan po na yun. Kasama po ang ating OCD.
After the Bacolod city government sought help from President Rodrigo Duterte on their fight against COVID-19, national officials came to the city. Contact tracing czar and Baguio City Mayor Benjamin Magalog, who is also in Bacolod City, will lead the training on contact tracing.
A lawmaker in the lower chamber of Congress fears that allowing third telecommunication company DOLE to construct cell sites and military camps would be a threat to the national security. But the Defense Secretary says otherwise.
Manila Electric Company or Meralco reduces its rate for residential consumers in September 2020.
Thai immigration grants stranded foreign tourists permission to stay.
Late-stage clinical trials of one of the most promising candidate vaccines suspended after a study patient developed an unexplained illness.
Good evening, Philippines and the world. Today is Wednesday, September 9, 2020. I am Harleen Delgado. Join us in the next hour as we deliver today's top stories around the country and in other parts of the world.
We are also seen in 1,935 satellite monitoring centers nationwide and via live streaming worldwide through the UNTV News and Rescue social media accounts and our website, untvweb.com. I am William Theo.
First in the news, healthcare workers are being recognized as modern-day heroes because of the sacrifices and difficulties they deal in the time of pandemic. However, some of them experience discrimination and harassment due to social stigma associated with COVID-19. Based on the Department of Health's latest report, as of September 8, 2020, there were 7,452 healthcare workers positive for COVID-19 and 40 of them have died from the virus. This is 3.7% of the total number of coronavirus infections in the Philippines. Meanwhile, the government will establish task force on logistics that will benefit healthcare professionals. Our Malacanang correspondent Rosalie Cos will tell us why.
A group that will focus on providing assistance for medical frontliners in need. This will be the mandate of Task Force on Logistics the government will establish, according to National Task Force Against COVID-19 Chief Implementary Secretary Carlito Galvez. This is also in line with President Rodrigo Duterte's directive to assist healthcare workers, especially those being evicted from their homes. Healthcare workers who are seeking assistance can also coordinate with the National Incident Command Center.
At yun po ay pinag-usapan na rin po namin kahapon sa pamumuno po ni Secretary Vince Dizon na magkaroon po ng tinatawag na yung ating task group on logistics ay sila pong titingin sa pangangailangan po na yun. Kasama po ang ating OCD.
The funds for Task Group on Logistics will come from Bayanihan 2.
Ito pong pondo po na inilaan po natin sa Bayanihan 2 ay ito po ang gagamitin po natin para sa mga mga libreng pasakay at libreng accommodations ng ating healthcare workers po.
President Duterte is expected to sign the bill within the week or next week. A large portion of the stimulus package is intended to strengthen the country's healthcare capacity and provide additional benefits for medical frontliners. It can be noted that the World Health Organization calls on governments to strengthen their health systems to combat the present pandemic and pandemics to come. Rosalie Cos, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
Amid the pandemic, Taguig City begins to use robot nurses. According to Mayor Lino Cayetano, these robots will physically carry medications and other supplies to COVID-19 patients, while the nurses look on from the monitor at the head of the robot. The Robo Nurses were created by the Taguig Robotics team, the same group which assembled robots used during a graduation ceremony in the city. Mayor Cayetano further says that this innovation coincides with the city's efforts to address the needs of its residents.
Meanwhile, after the Bacolod city government sought help from President Rodrigo Duterte on their fight against COVID-19, national officials came to the city. National Task Force Against COVID-19 Chief Implementer Secretary Carlito Galvez arrived today in Bacolod City together with COVID SARS and other officials. City officials will present in their meeting data on COVID-19 cases and their response to the crisis, while the NTF will assess the situation in Bacolod City and then lay out the National Action Plan as well as protocols and the set of strategies. They will also impart best practices like those in Cebu City and Navotas City. Contact Tracing Czar and Baguio City Mayor Benjamin Magalong, who is also in Bacolod City, will lead the training on contact tracing.
Meanwhile, the Department of Health informs the public that there will be a high number of coronavirus cases in the country in the coming days. Our health correspondent, Aiko Miguel, will tell us why.
34 of the 115 licensed testing laboratories across the country were not able to submit their reports yesterday to the DOH. This is why those results were not included in the DOH case bulletin for September 8.
This means there are confirmed cases per day that had not been reported yet officially, and will come out this week because nga ngayon nakaka-comply na ang laboratories, nakita na nila yung mga addresses na kompleto nila, so ngayon makakapag-submit sila ng buo sa atin. We may have an irregularly high number of cases in the coming days as cases from these laboratories gets reported. We will ensure to highlight which of these cases are late reports.
The DOH sees that the delay is because laboratories have to complete vital information like patients' addresses and contact numbers. Such details are used in contact tracing. This is also in accordance with the DOH mandatory order on September 1 that laboratories have to encode all the necessary information. The DOH explains when there is missing information or if it's not encoded, the report will not be uploaded to its COVID-19 data repository system.
The main factor was the change in or the additional two variables, the complete address and the phone numbers that were stated to be mandatory and hindi makakapasok or makaka-upload sa system yung kanilang submission if hindi kompleto ang kanilang fields dun sa kanilang CIF na isasubmit sa atin.
If the public sees a surge of cases in the coming days, it's because of the laboratories' delayed reports. This afternoon, the Health Department reported that only 12 out of the 117 laboratories were not able to submit their data to the COVID-19 data repository system. The DOH reiterates that laboratories proven to be non-compliant until next week will face corresponding sanctions. Aiko Miguel, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people. We give glory to God.
Meanwhile, the country's Department of Health says that more than 3,000 new cases were reported today based on tests done by 105 out of 117 operational laboratories. Over 1,300 of those fresh cases came from the National Capital Region, which reported the most new cases, followed by Batangas with 260, while Laguna, Batangas, and Negros Occidental all reported more than 100 additional patients. With those figures, now the coronavirus infections in the country surpass 245,000. The total active cases increased to 55,614. Of those, 88.3% are in mild condition. We have lost 70 more patients, but through our fervent prayers, medical interventions, and sacrifices of our medical frontliners, 376 more people have won their battle against the invisible enemy. That brings the total recoveries nationwide to 185,543. Thanks be to God.
Let's now take a closer look at the updated count of coronavirus cases around the world. The COVID-19 pandemic has now reached a total of close to 27.6 million confirmed cases in 188 countries, regions, and sovereignty. That's after more than 181,000 new cases have been reported across various countries since yesterday. The fast-spreading disease has claimed almost 898,000 lives, while about 67.2% of the total confirmed cases around the world have recovered from the infection. That's over 18.5 million patients, thanks be to God. The Labor Department's proposed budget for 2021 has increased significantly. One of our senior correspondents, Ray Pelayo, tells us why.
The Department of Labor and Employment's proposed budget for 2021 increased by more than 9 billion pesos. DOLE said during the budget briefing of the House Committee on Appropriations today, most of the budget increase will be allocated to the benefits for workers whose livelihood has been affected by COVID-19 pandemic. The Department of Budget and Management approved the budget, which includes the one-time 5,000 financial assistance for 2 million beneficiaries. But DOLE originally requested 40 billion pesos for this project to reach most of the affected workers.
Actually, sir, hindi po sasapat yung naibigay sa aming in-approve ng Department of Budget and Management. But if the Congress, both House and Senate, will restore our original proposal, sir, then we can reach more.
DOLE's COVID-19 program in the past for workers reached only 1 million beneficiaries.
Gusto din lamang po namin i-emphasize na kahit po flexible work arrangement, malaki rin po yung income na nawala sa ating mga manggagawa. Kaya sila po ay isa sa priority po na binigyan po natin ng financial assistance.
DOLE promised to prioritize beneficiaries who did not receive assistance under Bayanihan 1. The department also allots 500 million pesos for 16,000 beneficiaries of the government's Balik Probinsya program. Ray Pelayo, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people. We give glory to God.
Some senators question the budget allocation for the health sector for next year. This as the Development Budget Coordination Committee of the government presented to the senators today the proposed 4.5 trillion peso 2021 national budget. Senate Minority Leader Franklin Drilon asked the Department of Budget and Management why the allocated budget for the Department of Health is only 131 billion pesos, noting that the country is facing a public health crisis. The Health Department's original budget for this year is 104 billion pesos and then adjusted to 153 billion pesos from the emergency releases coming from the Bayanihan 1 and 2.
We need to improve our testing, we need to improve our contact tracing, and we need to improve our ability to treat. But how can we achieve these policies when you have reduced the DOH budget?
DBM Secretary Wendell Avisado says they spent huge amounts this year as they invested in capital considerations such as testing machines for COVID-19 testing. He adds that for next year, bulk of the budget will be spent on consumables, including test kits and personal protective equipment. However, according to Senator Cynthia Villar, only 30 out of 70 DOH-operated hospitals have their own COVID-19 laboratory and testing machines.
Kaya nga, I'm not asking for the budget. I'm asking for a commitment that they will build them.
Yes, ma'am.
Kasi sometimes they have the budget but they don't want to build.
Senator Risa Hontiveros also questioned the budget allocation for the DOH, asking why is the health sector only placed fifth in the 2021 proposed allocation. According to the DBM, they also have to allocate budget for other agencies to sustain the social and economic needs of the country.
We cannot rely on the budget of the DOH alone in order to reduce the impact of COVID-19 on the social and economic well-being of the country. Thus, we have also provided budgetary support for other agencies.
The lady senator adds the 2.5 billion peso funding under the DOH for the purchase of COVID-19 vaccines is inadequate. She says the government would be needing an approximate 189 billion pesos for the vaccine of the 18 million low-income households in the country. Secretary Avisado admits that 2.5 billion pesos will only suffice for 3.8 million Filipino families. But he assures the Department of Finance can provide the additional funding for the purchase of COVID-19 vaccine once it becomes available. The Finance Department says that based on the estimate given to them by the DOH, they will be needing an initial 20 billion pesos for the procurement of vaccines. Meanwhile, Senator Panfilo Lacson says he found a total of 469 billion peso worth of lump sums and reappropriated items in the proposed budget of the Department of Public Works and Highways, which may be unconstitutional. Out of this, Lacson says lump sum items amounting to 396 billion pesos were lodged in the DPWH Central Office, while almost 3,000 items amounting to 73.5 billion pesos were reappropriated in the 2021 national budget from the 2020 national budget. Secretary Avisado explains the items were relisted as the projects were not completed due to the COVID-19 pandemic. The senator further urged the DPWH through the DBM to submit a revised programs, activities, and projects list. The DBM says it will coordinate with DPWH Secretary Mark Villar over the matter. Meanwhile, there will be no more fund allocation for Social Amelioration Program or SAP in the proposed 2021 national budget. Budget Secretary Wendell Avisado says they are anticipating a better economic performance and job opportunities for Filipinos next year. Despite this, the Secretary adds they will continue the regular programs of the Departments of Social Welfare and Development. The DSWD has a proposed allocated budget of 171 billion pesos for next year.
In other news, a lawmaker in the lower chamber of Congress fears that allowing third telecommunication company DITO to construct cell sites in military camps would be a threat to the national security. But the Defense Secretary says otherwise. Ray Pelayo explains why.
Cagayan de Oro Representative Rufus Rodriguez said in the budget hearing that DITO Telecommunity Corporation is 40% owned by the Chinese.
Can you imagine that there will be Chinese allegedly employees of DITO who may be spies for China, where we have a conflict, especially on the West Philippine Sea, entering our camps and being able to secure installations that should not be known by outside forces.
But Defense Secretary Delfin Lorenzana said DITO will be allowed to construct its cell sites only with existing ones.
Most camps actually in the Philippines have already cell site towers of the Globe and Smart. And the contract or the memorandum of agreement that I signed, approved between the AFP and DITO is that it will just be limited to those camps as well.
Congressman Rodriguez also opposes the Philippine government's accommodation of Chinese contractors for the Sangli Airport project, and the same Chinese contractors constructed structures in the West Philippine Sea.
The advice that we can give maybe to the President is to properly screen these companies before they can conduct business here. But as I said a while ago, I think the President already decided that they can continue the project here So all we can do is now to be very, very sure that their entry into our territory will not endanger our sovereignty.
Lorenzana also emphasized that if the contract gets cancelled, the Philippine government will be fined with a huge amount. Ray Pelayo, UNTV News and Rescue, we serve the people, we give glory to God.
The Manila Electric Company or Meralco reduces its rate for residential consumers in September 2020. This is the fifth consecutive month that Meralco has reduced its rate based on the overall charges. Asher Kadapan Jr. details why live. Yes, Asher.
Arlene, Meralco explained that aside from lower generation charge, the reduced rate is due to the ease in the demand for electricity. While Metro Manila is under community quarantine, most industries are or have limited operation. About 6 centavos per kilowatt hour will be reduced from Meralco bills of residential consumers. This means that from 8 pesos and 49 centavos per kilowatt hour in August, consumers will be charged only 8 pesos and 43 centavos per kilowatt hour this month. This is equivalent to a 12 peso decrease in the bill for a 200 kilowatt hour consumption and 31 peso savings for 500 kilowatt hour usage.
Nung nagkaroon ng reimposition ng MECQ for 2 weeks in August, nakakita rin tayo ng pag-reduce ng demand for the month of August, and this was reflected in the rates this September.
Meanwhile, Meralco has yet to provide details about the 50 million peso fine imposed by the Energy Regulatory Commission over bill shock. The power distributor claims it is still studying the commission's order.
Our lawyers are studying the order of the regulator, but hopefully soon we will be able to give you a more concrete answer insofar as the penalty is concerned.
Arlene, Meralco reaffirms that the no disconnection policy is still implemented until October 31, 2020. Arlene?
Asher, why are Meralco customers encouraged to pay their bills despite having a no disconnection policy until October?
Arlene, despite the recent issue about the overestimated bill, the ERC advises the public to pay their appropriate electric bills to help the electric distributor with their operation. Meralco has yet to confirm whether the no disconnection policy will be extended anew, but they assure their customers that they are doing their best to provide the service and extend the help with the bills amid the crisis brought about by the pandemic. Arlene?
Thank you so much, Asher, for that report.
The Department of Environment and Natural Resources, or DENR, assures the public that the artificial white sand in Manila Bay does not pose a threat to human health. Vincent Arbodella will tell us why.
Environment Secretary Roy Simato says the particles of artificial white sand made of crushed dolomite are 2,000 to 5,000 microns in size, or 100 times the size of a dust particle. This makes the crushed dolomite at the Manila Bay heavier and bigger than regular sand particles, and therefore will not be carried away by the wind. With this, Secretary Simato assures the public that the artificial white sand is safe and will not pose a threat to the health of residents in the area. Simato adds that the dolomite can be harmful to health only if its dust particles are inhaled, something that can happen only when mining the stone.
Totoo po yun during the crushing. But when nandyan na, nailubog na sa tubig, hindi na, nakakatakot lang kasi yan yung dust particles. Pero ngayon po, hindi na po, wala nang pong dust particles yan.
Yesterday, Manila Mayor Francisco Isko Moreno Dumagoso asked the DENR for clarification after the Department of Health issued a statement that dolomite can cause respiratory problems once inhaled. The Manila mayor also asked the DOH for comments regarding the DENR statement, to which the DOH confirmed that with crushed dolomite at Manila Bay with particles bigger than that of regular sand, it will not pose a threat to human health. The DENR has previously insisted that dolomite stones have been used in other countries. Meanwhile, environmental group Oceania has launched an online petition to stop the white sand project as it allegedly goes against the Supreme Court's order of rehabilitation and causing destruction to the natural ecosystem of Manila Bay. But according to Secretary Cimatu, before the agency decided to use dolomite, they conducted studies.
Kailangan rin natin na medyo mineral na linisin yung tubig. Kasi nourishment ang kailangan nito eh. So, naghanap kami, pwede ito na gamitin yung dolomite. Linilinisin niya po yung tubig na ito. From acidic, magiging alkaline po ito.
The DENR also clarifies that of the 389 million peso fund, not even 10% was used for the artificial white sand. The Environment Secretary also assures that they have already made plans to make sure that the white sand would not be eroded by the waves. Vincent Arboleda, UNTV, News and Rescue. We serve the people. We give glory to God.
Delayed processing of vehicle registration can be attributed to the processes within the motorcycle dealer, according to the Land Transportation Office. Joanne Nano tells us why.
In today's episode of Get It Straight with Daniel Razon, Land Transportation Office Assistant Secretary Edgar Galvante tackled motorcycle registration. During the live discussion, a netizen raises concern on the delay of the release of his motorcycle's official receipt and certificate of registration, or ORCR. ASEC Galvante explained that delays in the processing of a vehicle registration is sometimes attributed to motorcycle dealers who gather all of their customers' documents before submitting them to the LTO.
Tiyak na magkakaroon ng delay dyan kasi sa dami nung i-submit nila, mga kailangan anuhin yun, kumbaga rekisahin, tignan at nagko-comply. Yung delay dahil doon sa practice nila ng batching Kaya doon sa mga nagmamadali, kung papayagan sila ng dealer, kunin nila yung kaukulang dokumento at sila na mismo magdala nito sa LTO.
Based on President Duterte's new directive, processing necessary documents should not exceed 20 days depending on the situation. The LTO warns dealers of possible suspension or revocation of their accreditation, as well as corresponding penalties if proven of negligence over delayed vehicle registration. The LTO also clarified that motorcycle riders who have yet to receive new plates will not be penalized provided that they present a copy of their vehicle's ORCR if flagged by traffic law enforcers. Joanne Nano, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
Now, here's a glimpse of what's the weather like in parts of the country. Pressure area is affecting parts of the country. State Weather Bureau Pagasa says as of 3 p.m. today, the LPA was spotted 895 kilometers east of southern Luzon. It is embedded along the Intertropical Convergence Zone, or ITCZ, affecting Palawan, Visayas, and Mindanao. The trough of the LPA will cause cloudy skies with scattered rain showers and thunderstorms over Bicol region and Samar provinces, while Metro Manila and the rest of the country will experience partly cloudy to cloudy skies with isolated rain showers due to the ITCZ or localized thunderstorms. Possible flash floods or landslides may occur during severe thunderstorms. No tropical cyclone advisory is issued. PNP Chief Police General Camilo Cascolan believes the e-warrant system will help resolve crimes faster. Our police correspondent Leia Ilagan will tell us why.
Police in the Philippines can now easily get the warrant of arrest for a wanted person through an online data system. This after the Philippine National Police and the Supreme Court launched an electronic warrant system yesterday. This means a police officer would not need to go to the court to get a copy of a warrant of arrest. All he needs to do is visit the portal or the online database for e-warrants to acquire a warrant of arrest. The court will send the warrant of arrest to the local police station. The court says this system allows an effective and fast way to arrest a wanted person. Police officers are given only 10 days to report to the online database system if they succeeded in serving the warrant. Other courts across the country can also see the updated information of the suspect. PNP and court personnel will undergo an online training on how to use the e-warrant system. PNP Chief Police General Camilo Cascolan says the e-warrant system will help a lot to resolve crimes. The Supreme Court aims to implement to the 2,600 court and 1,900 police stations nationwide before the end of this year. Leia Ilagan, UNTV, News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
The Bureau of Immigration is expected to deport U.S. Marine Lance Corporal Joseph Scott Pemberton after President Rodrigo Duterte granted him absolute pardon. Dante Amento tells us why.
The Bureau of Immigration will implement the summary deportation of U.S. Marine Lance Corporal Joseph Scott Pemberton. The Bureau is just waiting for the court clearance and other documents pertaining to Pemberton's release order. The Immigration Bureau, through Commissioner Jaime Morente, has asked Bureau of Corrections Director Gerald Bantag to turn over Pemberton to the BI after he gets released from prison.
Earlier, sa Monday, nagpadala na kami ng letter sa Bureau of Corrections regarding sa update sa status. Pero sa pagkakalam, wala pa rin na-release.
This will allow the BI to complete the deportation proceedings and immediately arrange the American soldiers' departure. On September 16, 2015, the Bureau of Immigration's Board of Commissioners ordered the deportation of U.S. military Pemberton, but the Olongapo local court issued a hold departure order after he killed Jennifer Laude and he had to serve his sentence.
Mayroon naman talagang deportation order kasi part kasi yan ng trabaho, independent naman yan eh. Pero yung implementation, execution, syempre, tayo kung may clearance eh.
Meanwhile, DOJ Secretary Minardo Guevara says the Bureau of Immigration will implement the final deportation order, especially if Pemberton does not contest it. Based on the BI guidelines, a criminal offense by a foreign national, which is punishable by imprisonment of more than 1 year, will make him an undesirable alien. Dantiamento, UNTV, News and Rescue. We serve the people. We give glory to God.
Meanwhile, sad news. Former Speaker Arnulfo Noli Fuentebella passed away this morning. He succumbed to heart failure after battling kidney disease for almost 2 years. Fuentebella was the Speaker of the Philippine House of Representatives from 2000 to 2001 and a former representative of the 3rd and now 4th District of Camarines Sur, more popularly known as the Partido District. He was 74.
And for the news abroad, here's Kath Dumaraos reporting live from Bangkok, Thailand.
Some foreigners here in Thailand have been stranded due to travel restrictions and unavailable and canceled flights caused by the spread of the coronavirus disease worldwide. As a result, the Immigration Bureau automatically renews the visas of foreign tourists until July 31st. They are also given a grace period from August 1st to September 26 to apply for visa extensions and allowed to continue their stay in the country. Police Major General Surapong Chaijan, spokesman for the Immigration Office, said that to prevent overcrowding and congestion in the immigration offices, he encourages people to submit their visa applications before September 26. The permission date for all visa types will be effective from September 27. New York State launches a COVID tracker to monitor cases across the State University of New York system, or SUNY's 64 colleges and universities. the state's Department of Health will be issuing regulations to require colleges to notify the state government when they have 100 COVID-19 cases. The aim is to address, monitor, and mitigate the spread of COVID across SUNY. The institutions can also notify the state if they could have to transition to remote learning. Updated daily, the dashboard will provide case counts for each individual campus, among other data. Earlier, Chancellor Malatres has announced that all SUNY colleges and universities will implement a testing program to detect and monitor COVID-19 cases on campuses. New testing requirement will ensure SUNY students, faculty, and staff are tested regularly, helping to identify, trace, and contain the virus quickly. Late-stage clinical trials of one of most promising candidates' vaccine suspended after a study, patient develops unexplained illness. Joining us tonight is one of our correspondents in Australia, Marvy Delfin, to tell us why live. Marvy?
Kath, pharmaceutical giant AstraZeneca and University of Oxford have put a hold on the Phase 3 clinical trials of their highly anticipated COVID-19 vaccine candidate after one of their 50,000 study participants falls ill, which was revealed today. The exact nature and severity of the participant's serious adverse reaction were not immediately known. An AstraZeneca spokesperson said, as part of the ongoing randomized controlled global trials of the Oxford coronavirus vaccine, our standard review process was triggered and we voluntarily paused vaccination to allow review of safety data by an independent committee. The company added, this is a routine action which has to happen whenever there is a potentially unexplained illness in one of the trials, while it is investigated, ensuring we maintain the integrity of the trials. The Australian government earlier signed a deal with AstraZeneca for the 33.8 million dose supply of the vaccine. If trials proved successful, Prime Minister Scott Morrison said the drug would be manufactured and distributed locally to be accessed free by Aussies from early 2021. Australia's Deputy Chief Medical Officer Nick Coatsworth said that he is not worried about it and the temporary halt does not mean the vaccine is off the table. Kath?
Marvy, we know for a fact that not only COVID-19 vaccines are the hot topics tackled by the Australian government lately. We have also witnessed the Australian government address issues with social media platforms during these challenging times. Can you fill us about this?
That's right, Kath. Aside from the COVID-19 vaccines, the Australian government is certainly onto social media platforms recently as Prime Minister Scott Morrison demands a graphic suicide video circulating in TikTok to be removed. Parents and children have been warned to be wary of the footage showing a man in the United States taking his own life. Cyber predators are reported using cute animal clips to lure children using the video sharing app into watching the graphic suicide video. Prime Minister Morrison said in a statement today that the laws and standards of behavior for the real world must also apply online. He also said no child should be exposed to horrifying content like this. Platforms like TikTok need to put in more resources to detect and tear down this sort of harmful content. That is their responsibility. Australia's eSafety Commissioner is engaging closely with TikTok to get the video removed. Also, a quick update. The legislation to ban single-use plastic in South Australia has passed Parliament. It will ban single-use plastics like straws, cutlery, and beverage stirrers from early 2021 and outlines a framework for adding more items in the future. Kath?
Thank you, Marvy, for that report. Let's now take a closer look at the updated count of coronavirus cases in countries worst hit by the pandemic. The USA now has a total of over 6.3 million confirmed cases of coronavirus infections, but with over 2.3 million recoveries. India stays as the country with the second largest caseload, with more than 4.3 million, surpassing the cumulative cases of Brazil, more than 4.1 million. Noticeably, though, cases in Mexico have surpassed South Africa's number, while Argentina becomes the 10th country to surpass the 500,000 mark of confirmed coronavirus cases. The Royal Thai Government Gazette announced on its website yesterday, September 8, that alcoholic beverages sales will be prohibited via electronic channels. The announcement, which was signed by Prime Minister Prayut Chan-o-cha, states that due to the popularity of e-commerce, some businesses opt to sell alcoholic beverages via electronic channels. This makes it difficult to control the date, time, venue, and target groups of the sale of alcoholic drinks in compliance with the legal limit stated in the Alcoholic Beverage Control Act BE 2551. The ban will take effect within 90 days of being announced in the Royal Gazette. And those are the reasons behind the news here in Thailand and other parts of the globe. Back to you, William.
Thank you, Kath Dumaraos, reporting live from Bangkok, Thailand.
And those are the reasons behind the news, September 9, 2020. I am Horilyn Delgado.
Because we need to know, we will always ask why. I am William Theo. We serve the people. We give glory to God.